"You're not smart enough for business." The words hit me like ice water across the face. I sat frozen It makes sense. So I'd stepped back, taken a remote part-time position, became the corporate wife who smiled at dinner parties and never complained about his late nights. But lately, those late nights had become more frequent. And tonight, that text message had seemed oddly celebratory for just office news. I picked up my phone and opened my laptop. If Marcus thought I wasn't smart enough, I'd prove him wrong. I pulled up the business plan I'd been working on for months. Sterling Consulting Services. My dream. My vision. By sunrise, I'd registered the domain name, filed preliminary paperwork, and sent an email to Victoria Chun, my former colleague at Hamilton Marketing. She'd started her own venture capital firm. Maybe, just maybe, she'd remember the brilliant young marketer I used to be. Marcus never even stirred as I worked. He had no idea what he'd just unleashed. Victoria's response came faster than I dared hope. "Lunch tomorrow? I've been waiting for you to make this move." We met at a downtown bistro, far from Marcus's usual haunts. Victoria looked successful and confident in a tailored suit, her presence commanding the room. "I heard you got married and stepped back," she said, sipping her water. "I always thought it was a waste of your talent." I explained my business concept. Boutique consulting for mid-sized companies that couldn't afford the big firms, but needed high-level strategic marketing. My years as a corporate wife had given me insight into exactly what these companies needed. Victoria listened intently, occasionally making notes. When I finished, she smiled. "I like it. More importantly, I like that you're hungry again. That fire I remember is back in your eyes." She pulled out her phone. "I'll invest $50,000 to start. In return, I want 15% equity and monthly reports." My hands shook as I processed her words. "You're serious?" "Completely. But there's one condition. You can't tell anyone about this investment, especially not your husband." "I've heard things about Marcus Foster. He works at Titanium Corp now, right?" I nodded, suddenly alert. "What kind of things?" "Just rumors. But in our industry, information is currency. Keep this quiet until you're established. Then surprise everyone." I agreed immediately, sensing Victoria knew something she wasn't sharing. We shook hands, and I walked out with a $50,000 check and a renewed sense of purpose. Marcus would never see this coming. The next 3 months were exhausting. I worked late into every night after Marcus went to bed, building my company from nothing. Website design, client outreach, service packages, everything done in secret. Marcus barely noticed. He was too absorbed in his own career, taking more business trips, working longer hours. When he was home, he'd mock my little hobbies, without realizing I was building an empire in our guest room. "Still playing businesswoman?" he'd ask, seeing my laptop open. "When are you going to accept reality?" I'd smile and change the subject. Let him underestimate me. It would make the victory sweeter. My first client came in month 2. A regional manufacturing company needed marketing strategy for a product launch. The contract was small, just $15,000, but it was validation. I worked that account with everything I had, delivering results that exceeded expectations. The client was thrilled. More importantly, they referred me to 2 other companies. By month 3, I had 4 active clients and revenue of $60,000. Sterling Consulting was real. But I kept it quiet. Paid taxes through a separate account Marcus didn't know about. Conducted calls while he was at work. Built my business in the shadows. Until one evening when Marcus came home early. I was on a video call with a potential client, discussing a $100,000 contract. He stood in the doorway listening. When I ended the call, he was smirking. "Playing pretend again?" he asked. "That's cute." He had no idea the contract was real. And I wasn't about to tell him. A week later, Marcus made an announcement that changed everything. "I got promoted," he said over dinner, beaming with pride. "VP of Strategic Accounts at Titanium Corporation, youngest VP in company history." I congratulated him, genuinely happy for his success. Despite everything, I still loved him. I just refused to be diminished by him anymore. "The best part," he continued, is that I'll be overseeing accounts in the exact sector you've been pretending to understand. Mid-sized manufacturing and retail. Real business, not whatever fantasy you've been playing with. Something cold settled in my stomach. Marcus's new role put him in direct competition with my company. But he didn't know that. To him, I was still just playing pretend. Over the next few weeks, Marcus started bringing work home. Confidential files, strategic plans, client lists. He'd leave them scattered across our home office, never imagining I might look. But I did look. And what I found made my blood run cold. 3 of my current clients were on Titanium Corp's target list. Detailed dossiers on their operations, their needs, their budgets. And at the bottom of each file, handwritten notes in Marcus's distinctive scrawl. Small consultant currently engaged. Easy to poach. He was planning to steal my clients. He didn't even realize they were mine. But then I found something worse. A folder labeled Competitive Intelligence. Inside were printouts from my website, my marketing materials, even screenshots of my proposals to clients. Marcus had been spying on Sterling Consulting. He just didn't know his wife owned it. I spent that night piecing together Marcus's strategy. He'd identified Sterling Consulting as a small competitor and was systematically working to undermine us. The notes were detailed, almost obsessive. Target their clients with aggressive pricing. One memo read. Emphasize our corporate resources. Position them as amateur hour. Another note chilled me. Find out who owns this company. Could be useful leverage. Marcus was hunting me without knowing it. And he was getting close. I called Victoria the next morning. We need to talk. Urgently. We met at her office. I laid out everything I'd discovered. Victoria's expression grew darker with each revelation. I was afraid of this, she said finally. Marcus has a reputation. He's ruthless with competitors, and he's not above using questionable tactics. But this is different. This is personal. What do I do? I asked, feeling the walls closing in. Victoria thought for a moment. You fight back. But smart. You have advantages he doesn't know about. Use them. She pulled up a file on her computer. Titanium Corp has been struggling lately. They're aggressive because they're desperate. Their stock price is down 20% this year. That VP position Marcus got? It came with impossible performance targets. How do you know this? Because I sit on their competitors' board. And I'm about to make you an offer you can't refuse. She turned the screen toward me. A partnership proposal. Sterling Consulting would become the preferred vendor for 3 companies in Victoria's portfolio. This contract is worth $500,000 annually, she explained. It will make you a serious player overnight. And it will put you in direct competition with Marcus's division. I stared at the proposal, my heart racing. This would change everything. No more hiding. No more pretending. There's one catch, Victoria added. You'll need to expand quickly. Hire staff. Get an office. Go public with your success. Which meant Marcus would find out. He'd know I'd been building this empire while he mocked me. But I was ready for that conversation now. I'd earned this moment. I'll do it, I said. Landing the partnership contract felt like winning the lottery and declaring war simultaneously. Within 2 weeks, Sterling Consulting went from a solo operation to a legitimate firm. I hired 3 consultants, rented office space, and launched a professional marketing campaign. Marcus noticed immediately. The industry was small enough that news traveled fast. He came home one evening with a business magazine in his hand. Did you see this? He asked, not yet connecting the dots. Some new consulting firm is making waves. Sterling Consulting. They landed the Pemberton account right out from under us. I looked up from my laptop, fighting to keep my expression neutral. Really? That's impressive. It's annoying, he corrected. We'd been working that account for months. Then this nobody company swoops in and steals it. My boss is furious. Maybe they made a better offer, I suggested carefully. Marcus snorted. Doubtful. They probably don't even know what they're doing. It's typical. These small firms promise the world, deliver garbage, and then disappear. I'm actually looking forward to watching them fail. The irony was almost painful. Marcus was so certain of my incompetence that he couldn't imagine I might be behind his professional frustration. That night, I made a decision. It was time to stop hiding. Not by telling him directly, but by letting him discover the truth on his own. The revelation would be sweeter that way. I left a Sterling Consulting business card on my desk. Casual, like it had been there all along. My name, my title, founder and CEO. Then I waited. Marcus found the card 3 days later. I was in the kitchen when I heard him call my name. His voice had a strange quality to it, somewhere between confusion and anger. I walked into the office. He was holding the business card, staring at it like it might be a hallucination. "What is this?" he asked quietly. "My business card," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "Your business card. For Sterling Consulting." He looked up at me, and I watched the pieces clicking together in his mind. "You own Sterling Consulting." Ido. The silence stretched between us. Marcus's face went through a dozen emotions: confusion, disbelief, anger, something that might have been embarrassment. "This is the company that's been stealing my accounts," he said slowly. "Not stealing. Competing. And winning, apparently." His jaw tightened. "How long?" "5 months. Since the night you told me I wasn't smart enough for business." I watched him remember that dinner, remember his mocking words. For the first time since I'd known him, Marcus looked genuinely uncertain. "You've been building a competing firm behind my back?" "I've been building my career. The one I put on hold for you. The competition was your choice, not mine." He stood abruptly, the chair scraping across the floor. "This is unacceptable. You're sabotaging my career. Using insider information from my work." "I've never touched your files," I lied smoothly. "I haven't needed to. My work speaks for itself." "This is betrayal, Alexa. We're supposed to be a team." The hypocrisy was stunning. "A team? When have we been a team, Marcus? When I sacrificed my career for yours. When you mocked my ambitions. When you called me too stupid to understand real business?" He had no answer for that. After that confrontation, Marcus went cold. Not angry, which I could have handled. Cold. Calculating. I recognized the shift. This was Marcus in competitive mode. The same ruthless strategist his colleagues praised. He stopped mocking my business. Stopped asking about my day. We became polite strangers sharing a house, each waiting for the other to make the next move. I knew what was coming. Marcus would use every resource at his disposal to crush Sterling Consulting. It wasn't personal anymore. It was professional. And in business, Marcus played to win. The first strike came within a week. 2 of my smaller clients received calls from Titanium Corp, offering identical services at 50% less. Both clients called me, apologetic but practical. They couldn't turn down such a dramatic cost difference. I let them go without a fight. Those accounts were small, and I'd expected Marcus to target them. What concerned me more was what would come next. The second strike was more sophisticated. Industry rumors started circulating. Sterling Consulting was struggling. Couldn't deliver on promises. Founder lacked experience. Nothing traceable, nothing I could prove, but damaging nonetheless. I called Victoria. "He's coming after me." "I know. I'm hearing the whispers too." She paused. "This is going to get uglier before it gets better. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about the past 3 years. The sacrifices, the mockery, the dismissal. I've been preparing for this fight longer than Marcus realizes. Good. Because I have information you're going to want. We met at her office. Victoria pulled up financial documents that made my eyes widen. "Titanium Corp is in worse shape than anyone knows," she explained. "They've been hiding losses for 2 quarters. When this goes public, their stock will crater. And Marcus's division is the most vulnerable." "How did you get this?" "I have my sources. The question is, what do you want to do with it?" I stared at the documents, understanding the opportunity. I could leak this information, destroy Titanium Corp's credibility, and Marcus's career along with it. But was that who I wanted to be? Instead of leaking the information, I made a different choice. I used it to protect my clients. When Titanium Corp approached my accounts with aggressive pricing, I had quiet conversations with each client. I didn't reveal confidential information, but I suggested they ask certain questions about long-term stability, about Titanium's own financial health, about what happens when a company offering unsustainable prices inevitably raises them later. 3 of my 4 targeted clients stayed with Sterling. They'd rather pay my rates and trust my stability than gamble on Titanium's desperate pricing. Marcus didn't take it well. I overheard a phone call one evening, his voice tight with frustration. "I don't understand how they keep winning. We're offering better rates, better resources. What are they telling clients?" The answer was simple. I was telling them the truth. Marcus was selling desperation dressed as opportunity. But Marcus wasn't finished. If he couldn't beat me on price or service, he'd attack my reputation directly. The article appeared in the Regional Business Journal. An anonymous letter to the editor questioning Sterling Consulting's ethics, suggesting we used underhanded tactics, implying that our success was built on industrial espionage. The letter was clever, just vague enough to avoid legal action, just specific enough to plant doubt. I recognized Marcus's style immediately. "You need to respond," Victoria urged. "Silence looks like guilt." But I had a better idea. Instead of defending myself, I went on offense. I pitched an interview to the Journal, a profile piece on Sterling Consulting's growth. I shared our client success stories, our methodology, our vision. I positioned the company as David fighting Goliath, the small firm winning through innovation rather than resources. The resulting article was everything I'd hoped for. Positive, detailed, legitimizing. It included testimonials from satisfied clients and data showing our success rates. The anonymous accusations looked petty by comparison. Marcus's company began investigating Sterling Consulting more seriously. Not just competitive research, but active intelligence gathering. I knew because one of my new hires, Kimberly, had previously worked at Titanium Corp. "They're building a file on you," she warned during a private conversation. "Your background, your clients, your financials. They're looking for anything they can use." "Let them look," I said. "My company is legitimate. Every contract is solid. Every client reference is genuine." But Kimberly looked worried. "There's something else. They're researching your connection to Marcus. They know you're married. They're trying to figure out if that's an angle they can exploit." The irony was almost funny. My assistant forwarded me an email that had been mistakenly sent to Sterling's general inbox. Titanium Corp would be announcing significant losses in the next quarterly report. Their aggressive pricing, the same strategy Marcus used against me, was unsustainable. They'd been buying market share at the cost of profitability. "Their stock will drop 30% minimum," Victoria predicted. "Maybe more. And when it does, heads will roll. Starting with the executives who approved this strategy." "Marcus," I said. "Marcus and several others. The board is already looking for scapegoats." I should have felt satisfaction. Instead, I felt a strange numbness. This man was my husband. Despite everything, seeing his career implode should have caused some emotion. But all I felt was cold clarity. Marcus had made his choices. Now he'd face the consequences. "There's something else," Victoria continued. "I'm part of an investment group interested in acquiring struggling companies. We've been watching Titanium Corp for months. When the stock drops, we're planning a hostile takeover." My breath caught. "You're going to buy Titanium Corp?" "We're going to try. If we succeed, we'll be restructuring everything. New leadership, new strategy, new direction." She paused meaningfully. "We'd need someone with industry expertise. Someone who understands the market and has proven results." The implication hung in the air. "You want me to run it?" "I want you to consider it. After the acquisition, after the restructuring, you'd be CEO of the company that tried to crush you." It was too perfect. Too cinematic. "That's insane." "That's business. Think about it." I drove home in a daze, my mind spinning with possibilities. CEO of Titanium Corporation, Marcus's boss. The ultimate reversal. But first, I had to survive the next 3 months. Because Marcus and his company would fight with everything they had before admitting defeat. The rumors about Titanium Corp's financial troubles started leaking within weeks. Not from me, I'd kept Victoria's confidence. But in the business world, secrets rarely stayed buried. Analysts started asking questions. Stock prices began dropping. Marcus became increasingly desperate. His attacks on Sterling grew more aggressive, more reckless. He approached my clients directly, sometimes showing up unannounced at their offices. He offered contracts that violated standard pricing structures. He made promises Titanium Corp couldn't possibly keep. Some clients were tempted. 2 even signed with him. But most stayed loyal to Sterling, unnerved by Marcus's increasingly erratic behavior. At home, Marcus and I barely spoke. We'd become adversaries sharing a house. I started looking at apartments, planning my exit. This marriage was over. We both knew it. We just hadn't said it aloud yet. Then came the board meeting that changed everything. Titanium Corp's quarterly earnings were worse than anyone predicted. $50 million in losses. Stock price plummeted 40% in a single day. The CEO resigned immediately. 3 board members followed. Marcus called me from his office. His voice was hollow. I'm being fired. Effective immediately. I sat down, processing this information. I'm sorry. No, you're not. His laugh was bitter. This is what you wanted, isn't it? To destroy me. I wanted to build my own success. You made it a war. And you won. Congratulations, Alexa. You've destroyed my career, my reputation, everything. The call ended. I sat in my office, feeling nothing but exhaustion. No triumph, no satisfaction. Just tired. Then Victoria called. The acquisition is moving forward. The takeover happens in 60 days. Are you interested in my previous offer? CEO of Titanium Corporation, Marcus's former company. The company that tried to destroy mine. Yes, I heard myself say. I'm interested. The next 60 days were chaos. Titanium Corp's collapse accelerated. Clients fled. Employees resigned. The company that had seemed so powerful was revealed as a hollow shell. Aggressive on the outside but rotting from within. Marcus moved out of our house. He didn't say where he was going. He just packed a bag one morning and left. I didn't try to stop him. Sterling Consulting, meanwhile, thrived. With Titanium Corp effectively neutered, we absorbed many of their abandoned clients. My company doubled in size. Revenue tripled. Victoria's investment group finalized the Titanium Corp acquisition. The purchase price was humiliating, 70 cents per share. A company once valued at $800 million sold for under $60 million. Restructuring begins immediately, Victoria told me. We're cleaning house. New leadership, new culture, new strategy. The old Titanium Corp is dead. And you want me to lead the resurrection. I want you to transform it. Make it what it should have been all along. The offer was comprehensive. CEO position. Significant equity stake. Full authority to rebuild from the ground up. There's one catch, Victoria added. Several former Titanium executives are requesting severance packages, including Marcus. As CEO, you'd have to approve or deny those requests. The poetic justice was almost too perfect. Marcus's financial future in my hands. What do the severance packages look like? I asked. Standard for executives. 6 months salary, benefits continuation, non-compete clauses. Nothing extraordinary. I thought about it. About revenge and dignity. About the person I wanted to be versus the person Marcus had tried to make me. Approve his severance, I said finally. Standard terms. He earned it as an executive, even if he failed. Victoria sounded surprised. You're sure? After everything. I'm sure. This isn't about punishing Marcus. It's about building something better. My first day as CEO of Titanium Corp felt surreal. Walking into the building where Marcus once worked. Sitting in the corner office that had belonged to the man who fired him. The staff was wary. Uncertain. They'd been through leadership changes, layoffs, uncertainty. They didn't know whether to trust me. I called an all-hands meeting. Addressed the entire company. I know my background, I began. I know some of you worked with my husband. I know Sterling Consulting competed against this company. I understand if you're skeptical about my leadership. The room was silent. Hundreds of eyes watching me. But I'm not here to gloat. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because I believe this company can be something better than what it was. Better strategy, better ethics, better results. I outlined my vision. A company that competed through excellence, not desperation. That valued long-term relationships over short-term profits. That treated employees and clients with respect. This won't be easy, I concluded. Rebuilding never is. But I promise you this. I will never ask you to compromise your integrity for a quarterly target. I will never demand you choose between your ethics and your job. The applause was hesitant at first, then stronger. Not everyone was convinced. But it was a start. After the meeting, my new assistant handed me a folder. This came this morning. Personal delivery. Inside was a handwritten letter from Marcus. I almost threw it away unread. But curiosity won out. Alexa. It began. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I finally understand what I lost. Not the career. Not the reputation. You. I underestimated you from the beginning. Worse, I tried to diminish you. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for everything. You were always smart enough for business. You were always strong enough to succeed. I was just too insecure to see it. Congratulations on your success. You earned every bit of it. Marcus. I read the letter twice, then filed it away. An acknowledgement, not an absolution. Some hurts cut too deep for simple apologies to heal. Rebuilding Titanium Corp took months. I brought in new leadership, established ethical guidelines, and rebuilt client relationships one conversation at a time. Sterling Consulting merged with Titanium under my direction. Not an acquisition, but a true merger. The best of both companies combined into something stronger. Marcus's former colleagues, the ones who'd whispered about my incompetence, now reported to me. Some resented it. Those people didn't last long. Others adapted, recognizing that leadership was about results, not gender or connections. 6 months into my tenure, Titanium posted its first profitable quarter in over a year. Stock prices began recovering. Industry publications praised our turnaround. I appeared on the cover of Business Weekly with the headline, From Dismissed to CEO. How Alexa Foster Built an Empire. The article detailed my journey. The mockery, the secret company building, the competitive warfare with my husband's firm, and finally, the stunning reversal that put me in charge. My mother-in-law called after the article published. Her voice was stiff, uncomfortable. I saw the magazine, she said. I wanted to apologize. For that dinner. For doubting you. Thank you, I replied, keeping my tone neutral. Marcus has been struggling. The divorce, the career loss. He's not handling it well. We'd filed for divorce 3 months after I became CEO. Clean, uncontested. No alimony either direction. Just a clean break. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, meaning it. I didn't hate Marcus anymore. I just didn't care. He's proud of you though. He told me that. He knows he lost something irreplaceable. We talked for a few more minutes, then said goodbye. I hung up feeling nothing but closure. That chapter of my life was finished. Time to write the next one. A year after becoming CEO, I addressed the annual shareholders meeting. The room was packed. Investors, analysts, media. Everyone wanted to see the woman who'd orchestrated one of the business world's most dramatic turnarounds. When I took over Titanium Corp, I began. This company was days from bankruptcy. Revenue was down 60%. Client trust was shattered. Employee morale was non-existent. I pulled up the numbers. Today we're profitable. We've regained 70% of our lost market share. Employee retention is at an all-time high. And client satisfaction scores have improved by 40 points. The applause was genuine. These people had money invested in our success. They had reason to celebrate. But numbers don't tell the complete story, I continued. The real transformation wasn't financial. It was cultural. We stopped viewing business as warfare. We started building partnerships instead of destroying competitors. We valued integrity over quarterly targets. I paused, letting that sink in. This approach isn't soft. It's strategic. Sustainable growth beats desperate expansion every time. Trust beats manipulation every time. Excellence beats aggression every time. More applause. Louder now. After the meeting, reporters swarmed. Questions about my marriage, my former company, the competitive war with Marcus. I answered honestly but briefly. That was the past. I was focused on the future. One reporter asked the question everyone wanted answered. Do you feel vindicated? The husband who said you weren't smart enough for business. You're now running the company that employed him. I thought carefully before responding. Vindication implies this was about proving Marcus wrong. It wasn't. This journey was about proving myself right. About trusting my abilities even when the people closest to me didn't. Do you have any regrets? Only that I didn't start sooner. 2 years after becoming CEO, Sterling Titanium Corp was ranked among the top consulting firms nationally. We'd expanded into new markets, acquired 2 smaller competitors, and established ourselves as industry leaders. Victoria remained on the board, my advocate and advisor. During a private dinner celebrating our success, she raised her glass. To the woman who turned $50,000 into a $100 million company in 3 years. I clinked my glass against hers. To the woman who believed in me when no one else did. Marcus believed in you, Victoria said. He just believed you should be his support system, not his equal. That's not belief. That's possession. We drank in comfortable silence. Then Victoria pulled out a folder. I groaned. Can't we have one dinner without a business proposal? This isn't business. It's personal. She slid the folder across. Marcus has applied for a position. Middle management at one of our smaller divisions. I stared at the application. Marcus's resume, carefully reconstructed. His accomplishments at Titanium Corp, omitting the failures. References from former colleagues who'd survived the restructuring. What do you think? Victoria asked. I read through the application carefully. Objectively. He's qualified. Experience is solid. References check out. That's not what I'm asking. I knew what she was asking. Could I work with Marcus? Could I be his ultimate boss? Would history poison any professional relationship? It's not my decision, I said finally. He applied to a division I don't directly manage. Let the hiring manager evaluate him on merit. The hiring manager will defer to you. Everyone knows your history. I handed the folder back. Then tell them to ignore the history. Evaluate the candidate. If he's the best fit, hire him. If not, don't. I'm not going to sabotage him, but I'm not going to save him either. Victoria smiled. That's exactly the right answer. Marcus got hired. Not because of me, but despite me. The division manager genuinely needed someone with his experience. Marcus started 3 weeks later in a role several levels below his former position. I didn't seek him out. Didn't make a point of running into him. But the company was large enough that paths eventually crossed. It happened in the elevator. I was heading to a board meeting. The doors opened, and Marcus stepped in before seeing me. We both froze. Alexa, he said quietly. Marcus. Awkward silence filled the small space. Marcus looked different. Older maybe. Or just tired. The arrogance that once defined him had been replaced by something more grounded. Congratulations on the promotion, he said, referencing a recent announcement about my elevation to chairman in addition to CEO. You've done incredible things with this company. Thank you. More silence. Then Marcus spoke again, his voice careful. I know this is awkward. Me working here. I can request a transfer to another office if. That's not necessary, I interrupted. You were hired on merit. Your performance will be evaluated on merit. Nothing else matters. The elevator reached my floor. As the doors opened, Marcus spoke one more time. I really am proud of you, Alexa. I always should have been. I stepped out, then turned back. I know, Marcus. But I don't need your pride anymore. I have my own. The doors closed between us. That conversation, brief and awkward, provided the closure I hadn't realized I needed. Marcus and I would exist in the same professional world, but we were no longer connected beyond that. And I was completely fine with it. 3 years into my tenure, I received an unexpected invitation. Harvard Business School wanted me to give a keynote address on strategic turnarounds. The same institution whose MBA Marcus had lorded over me during our marriage. I accepted immediately. The auditorium was packed with students, professors, and business leaders. As I took the stage, I spotted Marcus in the back row. He'd driven 3 hours to attend. Our eyes met briefly before I began. I'm going to tell you something every business textbook leaves out. I started. The hardest competition you'll ever face isn't in the marketplace. It's in your own mind. The voice that says you're not ready, not qualified, not smart enough. I shared my story, not as a revenge narrative, but as a lesson about self-belief, about building something despite doubt, despite mockery, despite every logical reason to give up. When someone tells you you're not capable, I said, you have 2 choices. Believe them, or prove them wrong. I chose wrong. Not to hurt anyone but to validate myself. The students listened with rapt attention. After the speech, the Q&A session was intense. Questions about strategy, leadership, competitive dynamics. But one young woman asked the question that mattered most. How did you forgive the people who doubted you? I thought about that dinner at my in-laws' house. About Marcus's smirk. About his mother's dismissive nod. About years of diminishment. I didn't forgive them, I answered honestly. Not in the traditional sense. Forgiveness implies they earned it through remorse or change. Instead, I released them. I stopped letting their opinions define my worth. That's different from forgiveness. That's freedom. After the event, Marcus approached. We stepped outside into the cool evening. That was powerful, he said. Especially the parts about me, even if you didn't name me. It was never about you, Marcus. That's what you never understood. My success wasn't built on your failure. It was built on my capabilities. He nodded slowly. I'm dating someone. Thought you should know. I'm glad. You deserve happiness. So do you. Are you happy, Alexa? I considered the question. My company, my success, my independence. The absence of that constant voice telling me I wasn't enough. Yes, I said simply. I am. We said goodbye, and I knew it would be the last significant conversation we'd have. We'd closed the circle. What remained was only the professional connection. And even that would fade as his career took him elsewhere. 5 years after that humiliating dinner, I stood in the same in-laws' dining room. But this time, the context was completely different. Marcus's father had invited me to a family celebration. Marcus had remarried, and they wanted to introduce his new wife to the extended family, including me, oddly enough. You're still family, Marcus's mother had said when extending the invitation. What happened between you and Marcus doesn't change that you're important to us. The apology I'd never received came through actions instead. They'd followed my career, celebrated my successes, and acknowledged their past mistakes indirectly through present support. I attended out of curiosity more than anything. Marcus's new wife, Claire, was a teacher. Warm, genuine, completely different from the corporate world. She and Marcus seemed genuinely happy together. I've heard so much about you, Claire said when we met. Marcus says you inspired him to become a better person. I glanced at Marcus, who looked slightly embarrassed. That's generous of him. During dinner, I sat in the same chair where Marcus had once mocked my business proposal. His mother, perhaps remembering the same moment, raised her glass. To Alexa, she said. An extraordinary woman who taught our family about strength and perseverance. We're proud to know you. The toast was sincere, earned through years of proven success rather than familial obligation. I accepted it with grace, finally feeling the validation I'd once desperately sought from these people. After dinner, Marcus and I found ourselves alone on the patio. The night was cool, stars visible despite the city lights. This is strange, Marcus said. All of us together like this. Strange but okay, I agreed. I need to tell you something. I'm leaving Sterling Titanium. Took a position with a nonprofit. Educational consulting for underfunded schools. I was genuinely surprised. That's quite a change. Claire's influence. She showed me there's more to life than climbing corporate ladders. More meaningful measures of success. I'm happy for you, Marcus. Truly. He smiled. That's the thing about you, Alexa. You actually mean that. Even after everything, you're not vindictive. I never deserved that grace. We both made mistakes. We both grew. That's enough. 7 years after founding Sterling Consulting in secret, I stood before a mirror in my penthouse office, preparing for a television interview. Forbes had named me one of the top 50 CEOs globally. The recognition was gratifying, but what mattered more was the journey that got me there. My assistant knocked. Miss Foster, they're ready for you in the conference room. I followed her down, where cameras and lights had transformed our executive space into a studio. The interviewer, Preston Wallace, was a legendary business journalist known for tough questions. Thank you for doing this, he said as technicians adjusted my microphone. My pleasure. The interview covered standard topics. Leadership philosophy, strategic decisions, market positioning. Then Preston pivoted. Your story has become almost legendary in business circles. The wife told she wasn't smart enough, building a company in secret, eventually becoming CEO of her husband's former employer. Some critics say you've built your brand on that narrative rather than business acumen. How do you respond? I'd expected this question. The narrative is true, but it's not the foundation of my success. Sterling Titanium succeeds because we deliver results. Client retention is 93%. Revenue growth averages 30% annually. Employee satisfaction scores are industry-leading. Those metrics exist independent of my personal story. But you do use that story in speeches, interviews, your public presence. I share my experience because it resonates with people who've been underestimated, particularly women in business. If my story inspires someone to pursue their ambitions despite doubt, that has value beyond brand building. Preston nodded, respecting the answer. Your ex-husband works in nonprofit education now. Do you take any credit for that transformation? None. Marcus's journey is his own. I'm glad he found meaningful work, but his choices aren't my responsibility or my achievement. One final question. If you could go back to that dinner where your husband mocked your business proposal, what would you tell your younger self? I thought about the woman I'd been. Hurt, humiliated, but not broken. Ready to prove herself even if she didn't know it yet. I'd tell her she's already smart enough, strong enough, capable enough. The only validation she needs is her own. And that the best revenge isn't destroying others. It's becoming everything they said you couldn't be. 10 years after that transformative dinner, Sterling Titanium Corp went public. The IPO was one of the year's most successful, raising $800 million and valuing the company at $3 billion. I owned 18% after dilution. On paper, I was worth over $500 million. But numbers were just numbers. What mattered was the company we'd built, the culture we'd created, the thousands of employees who found meaningful work and ethical leadership. The night of the IPO, I hosted a celebration at our headquarters. Employees, investors, clients, everyone who'd contributed to our success. Victoria found me on the rooftop terrace, escaping the crowd for a moment of quiet. How does it feel? She asked. You've built something extraordinary. It feels like the beginning, not the ending. There's so much more to do. Victoria laughed. Always forward-thinking. That's why you succeed. She paused. I saw the guest list. You invited Marcus and Claire. Why wouldn't I? Marcus was part of the journey, even if not the part he intended. They arrived an hour later. Marcus looked healthy, happy, completely removed from the corporate stress that once defined him. Claire was pregnant, visibly glowing. Congratulations, Marcus said, shaking my hand. This is incredible, Alexa. Thank you for coming. Claire pulled me aside while Marcus got drinks. I wanted to tell you something. Marcus talks about you sometimes. Not with regret exactly, but with understanding. He says you taught him that success built on diminishing others is hollow. That lesson changed his life. I smiled. Tell him I'm glad. And congratulations on the baby. Thank you. We're naming her Alexa, actually. If that's okay with you. I was genuinely touched. That's very kind. Later, as I watched Marcus and Claire leave, hand in hand, I felt complete peace. We'd both found our paths. His involved teaching and family. Mine involved business and leadership. Neither path was better. They were just different. And that was perfectly fine. 15 years after founding Sterling Consulting, I stepped down as CEO. Not from failure or force, but by choice. I'd accomplished everything I'd set out to do and more. Time for new challenges, new horizons. I remained chairman of the board, guiding strategy while younger leaders handled daily operations. My successor was brilliant, a woman I'd mentored for 5 years. She'd continue building what we'd started. I spent more time on personal projects, a foundation supporting women entrepreneurs, guest lectures at business schools, writing a memoir about building success from nothing. One afternoon, I received a letter from an unexpected source. Marcus's daughter, now 12 years old. The Alexa he'd named with Claire's blessing. Dear Ms. Foster, she wrote in careful script. My dad tells me you're the bravest person he knows. He says you taught him about real strength. I want to be like you when I grow up. Strong and brave and smart. Can you tell me how? I wrote back immediately. A long letter about self-belief, perseverance, and understanding that other people's doubts reflect their limitations, not yours. I sent her a copy of my memoir, inscribed, for Alexa, who will define success on her own terms. On the anniversary of that fateful dinner, I treated myself to a quiet evening. No celebration, no crowds. Just reflection. I thought about the woman I'd been, desperate for approval, willing to sacrifice her ambitions for someone else's comfort. I thought about the moment of clarity when Marcus's mockery became the catalyst for change. Most of all, I thought about the lesson I'd learned and now shared with others. You don't need permission to be extraordinary. You don't need validation from people who've never believed in you. You just need courage to believe in yourself. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. Dinner next week? I have a business proposal you'll find interesting. I smiled. Some things never changed. I replied. Absolutely. Let's build something new. Because that's what I did. I built. I created. I transformed doubt into determination and mockery into motivation. Marcus had called me too stupid for business. Instead, I'd shown everyone, exactly how smart I could be. And I wasn't finished yet.